Hey, you guys, and welcome to the Steele Wars Hypernews. We are live on Tuesday, the 25th of September, bringing you all the day's Star Wars news and talk about a little bit and commiserate and celebrate the life of excellent producer Gary Kurtz. And to help us do that, we have, I don't know, Tom, you have to be undisputed the best podcast contributor in Star Wars podcasting without having a podcast. Welcome, King Tom, Tom Chansky. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I am well. And for those that are watching the live stream or watching it on delay on YouTube, I've got Tom's little graphic is him next to his bagged up giant porg. And it kind of looks like you've taken out a mafia hit on the giant porg because he's in like a plastic bag.
That's how it was. That's how it was presented to me. I wasn't courageous enough to go hunting myself. Someone had to bring them to the porg to me.
Because I noticed that's the cool way to kill people now on mob shows is the plastic bag and the riptide. Deadly, deadly items. So to all our people, hitmen watching out there, just play it safe. Be careful. Be careful. Tom, what's your... so for those that don't know, Tom is contributes, calls in, asks questions of so many different Star Wars podcasts that it feels like he has a podcast. And I've often theorized that someone could edit together all his questions from from the Star Wars podcast of the week and edit them into a little like a King Tom cast. But what was the first bit of interaction you ever did with a Star Wars podcast, Tom?
I think it was, I'd been listening to Now This Is Podcasting for a few months, and I always wanted to write in, but it took me a while to do so. And I think my first question was about raising kids with Star Wars, because Jason had mentioned, talking about Star Wars with Luke, but he didn't really follow up on it. And I knew he had kids. I knew Sal had kids. So my question was about that, because this was right before The Force Awakens came out. My kids were, I think, like 2 and 4, 3 and 5, something like that. And I would write in occasionally, and then I started listening to Blue Harvest. I wrote in, started writing into them, and then evolved into voicemails once they started taking them. And then, I want to try and support my friends who have podcasts and try to contribute in a good way to their shows. You and your show, of course, because you were talking about Ewoks and Ewoks blinking. And I just had to say that I had this long-standing thing in the back of my head that at certain times when watching the new versions of Return of the Jedi, I could hear a sound when an Ewok's blinked.
Oh.
And I think that was one of our first conversations.
That's where you made your mark. I'd since forgotten that was you. Yes. You insisted that their eyelids were making some sort of squishy noise, that Skywalker sound, that Ben Burt had traveled to some far-off land to record some squishing of eyelids.
And I think...
Sick man.
I think either Eric Strothers or Dom was watching one day, and they tweeted me that at one point there was a sound in the background when the Ewok blinked, and so they could see. And I was vindicated in that moment. I was vindicated.
Ooh, don't know. A big hello to everyone chatting live in our chat room. The Rural Farm Boys in there: Emily Lynn, Seth Owen, Xander Williams. And Tom Chansky's also in there. You're doing double duty, Tom. You're a multimedia guest.
I'm stuck in a time loop because I'm hearing you, and then I'm seeing you from like 5-10 seconds ago.
Yeah, it's even longer because, like, okay, watch. I'll scratch my nose now. Right, this is great sound for everyone listening on Patreon. So I just scratched my nose, and now I'm watching the screen. I'm not
Oh, there it goes. There it was.
I don't know if that was the original Scratch Nose. No, there it is. That's the one on purpose. So that's like a 15-second delay or something. This is fascinating. Yeah. Fascinating. Any Star Wars news got your interest? Chat room, you can jump in with this. Any Star Wars news that you've got? But it's a pretty doing these twice a week. We're doing these on Tuesdays and Fridays. You do tend to if it's a lull, and it definitely, apart from Gary Kurtz's death, doesn't seem to be much new action out there. There's a lot of people talking about Snoke coming back. Is this rumor just like a Mike Zero thing? And because I'm seeing a lot of iffy places or places not really crediting where this information's coming from. You know anything about this, Tom?
I believe it was. I know it was not a Making Star Wars item. I think it might have been on Star Wars Newsnet, and it came. I didn't read the article because when the tweets basically said that he canceled a convention appearance. So logically, they assumed that he's going to film Episode 9, but he's an actor, an in-demand actor who's been in a lot of big productions. There are a lot of different things he could be.
Well, they're doing.
Like I said, I haven't.
Yeah, sorry.
Like they're bringing him back for not Black Panther 2, but something else he's in. So it could be a lot of things he's in. It doesn't have to be Episode 9. Now, like I said, I didn't read the article, but that's the buzz, Steele.
Yeah. Did he make it through Black Panther?
Yeah. No, he died. Sorry, spoiler alert. He died halfway through.
R.I.P. Because I was going to say, I know they're doing like Avengers reshoots and all that sort of stuff. So, but yeah, okay. So it's very circumstantial. We had a few people in the chat room very not happy with the return of Snoke. How do you feel? Even I guess like a flashback, but if you've got, I've got this thing about like how many flashbacks or dead people are you going to feature in the movie? Well, you definitely got Mark Hamill.
Yeah, well, but the thing is, Mark could be a Force ghost, but George has been pretty firm in the past saying that the dark side won't lead to immortality in the form of Force ghost.
Yes.
So you would have to think it's flashback.
One
would be a nice way to work in the Knights of Ren.
Ooh. I have a hard time dealing. I'm like, just because we never had the flashbacks in Star Wars before. Like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm like a deep dive flashback in a Star Wars saga film is. Don't know. I don't know if that's cheating.
Yeah.
Like as far as like in the storytelling and what you've got to work with. I don't know. Hey, they've got a few. Sorry, Tom. Go.
No, I was going to say, I see where you're coming from, especially if it's like we're going to take a 5-minute interlude to show you something that happened in the past. But if it's something done creatively where I thought the way they did it in The Force Awakens was great, where Rey was just presented with all of this information that she and the audience had to put together. I liked that.
Well, Josh Chapman theorized it's a secret plan to sell more Snoke Theory Sucks t-shirts, and I can get behind that. I really can. Which will lead me into a light bit of sizzle plugging, because I am days away from having my first child, and we've got a pre-baby sale, which the graphic is up right now. If you use code BABY at merchostore.com, you get 33% off all t-shirts and stickers. You've got the content t-shirt, the shill, Your Snoke Theory Sucks, the Ewok Yubnub t-shirt that I'm wearing, the tribute, which is almost sold out. So check that out. You've got a couple of these, Tom. You've got the content shirt, I'm pretty sure. Come on, talk it up, buddy. How is your life been better since wearing this shirt, or what?
I get looks when I go out in public. I have the content. I have the world's first Episode 9 merch T-shirt. I have the Mendo shirt, and people notice them. Not only that, but the big thing for me is comfort, and these are soft, comfortable T-shirts.
That's the spirit.
And it's part of it is I've heard many people say you're one of the best people to talk to about how to take care of T-shirts, and I'm a big believer. If you take care of a T-shirt, it's going to take care of you. And these are ones that they look good and they're comfortable, and that's all I could ask for.
Someone just said the live feed just went out. I'm not sure what is happening there. Maybe it's just a rural fanboy. But I've got a poll, one of my famous polls, or famous to me, Tom, that we started last episode, and it is which pre-shoot Star Wars or pre-reshoot Star Wars footage would you most like to check out cut back into their movie? And I picked out the 4 of the most predominant reshot Star Wars films. I had A New Hope. There was all that pre-Marshall Lucas stuff. The Force Awakens, all the stuff before Harrison Ford hurt his ankle. Rogue One, well, a lot of stuff going on there. And Solo with all the Phil and Lord business. What was your pick, Tom, and why?
My pick was The Force Awakens until I heard Hawes last week. And then I had to change my answer because I believe he said it had a lot of extra Leia stuff. And if you were to reincorporate that, it would kind of spoil episode 9. So because of that, I switched to Solo.
Ah, really? You took one for the team.
Mm-hmm. Hey, I'm not afraid of admitting when I'm wrong, and I'm wrong a lot.
Yeah, I would still go for like The Force Awakens originally was my least interested one, but then when I like to, if any hint of what different form Rey's relationship could take with other people, like whether she was someone's daughter, and like just how they jiggled around with her deal, I became increasingly fascinated with the Force Awakens stuff. But the end results were that wait there, I've got it's too small on my screen right now, Tom.
Oh.
This is all right. Let's blow it up. So we've got A New Hope 18%, The Force Awakens 11%, 21% went with Solo. So all under a quarter, and then Rogue One with all that unreleased Mendo action, 50%.
What Mendo?
Yeah. So good for Mendo. Emily Lind is screaming about the Mendo information. Let's see. If you want to call in, you can call in on 646-668-8360. The link is on YouTube down in the corner of the screen from right now. And it is also in the chat and the comments. So that is 646-668-8360. Add a +1 if you are Skyping in from another foreign land, given that we are in America. And if you want to chat, we've got a couple of people on hold. Just press 1 on your keypad and we will know that you want in. So run us through a bit of the stuff about the life of Gary Kurtz there, Tom. You got anything to share?
Well, I think, we're around the same age, and we grew up with Star Wars Empire, the original trilogy on VHS. And for me, I was always fascinated by who he was because he was the second name who popped up in the credits when they rolled.
Yeah.
And, he was the producer for, he started working with George, I think, on American Graffiti, and he produced that. He produced A New Hope, and he produced Empire Strikes Back. And reading through the J.W. Rinsler making of books, which are probably the best chronicles of how these movies were made, he didn't really have much to do with the story, but his work was more in terms of getting things in place, getting things done. And he let George tell the story while he worried about how everything was paid for. And obviously, Star Wars was a huge success, but Empire really, probably more of his effect is felt on there because he basically let Irwin Kershner be Irwin Kershner. Kershner and George had different philosophies in how movies should be shot. George wanted different camera setups, and Kershner wanted to focus on the action that was taking place in the scene and having it acted out, where George felt that you could just edit it all together later, edit the best take of everything. And
classic George.
Because of that, Kershner took a longer time, and Kurtz really served as the buffer between George and Kershner, but it also led to some financial problems because shooting went so over, they had to go to a few different banks to get a new loan for the movie.
Don't you hate that, Tom? Like when you're trying to finance a blockbuster and you're just going from ATM to ATM, just overdrawing all your accounts. It's,
Right, especially when it's for the sequel to the biggest movie ever made and no one will give you money to make it.
But just imagine how long it would take for like $20 million to come out of the ATM. That would, it could take days. And it was in the 80s, so even slower. Yeah. So, it's a very diligent producer to wait by the ATM for that long. Assuming that's how
maybe that's why it took so long to make, because he was waiting by the ATM.
Ah, that does make sense. Sense. So he's best known for his work as a producer of American Graffiti, Star Wars: Empire Strikes Back, and The Dark Crystal, which had a bit of a Dark Crystal vibe with Madame Proxima. Did you when she popped out of the water in Solo, I was definitely thinking bit of Crystal vibes.
I could see, and I think they said she was a big puppet. Real sets, practical effects.
I think they meant that as a slur.
Oh.
It's like, the big puppet. I don't really know what that is. Hey, my microphone just checked out. What is going on? Oh,
I can hear you.
Sorry. No, just something just ran out of battery at my desk, and so I've just changed plugs. So that was just some immediate work. If you guys are on hold, if you want to chat, just press 1 so I know you're not just. Sometimes people just call in because they just want to listen to the show immediately. George Lucas released a little statement to the Hollywood Reporter. Gary's passing will be felt throughout the Star Wars family through what were sometimes challenging shooting difficulties and conditions. I'm pretty sure that's a reference to that ATM machine incident, Tom. His contributions. I got really stuck there on that. I am very sorry, George Lucas. His contributions as a producer helped bring the stories to life on screen. My heart goes out to his family. And they sort of left, they split after Empire, and George sort of begrudged him for the going over time and George having to dip into his old funds. Is that a correct read of the situation, Tom?
That's one of the main reasons I think why Kurtz was let go, because George felt like the situation should not have gotten that bad. And after he left, he worked with Henson on The Dark Crystal and some other film projects. But around the time of Return of the Jedi, and even during the early prequels, Kurtz was very critical of Lucas, where he gave interviews where he said that he felt the franchise was becoming too driven by selling toys and not telling a story. And I think he had the idea that Star Wars should be a little bit more adult or more emotional than it was. He probably felt it was something like glorified explosions. But then he came back into the fold around the release of Revenge of the Sith, because I remember seeing him on Star Wars related shows doing interviews and other things in the news like that. So he and George must have made up after that. But for a while, he was, I don't know if critical is too harsh a word, but he was critical of the direction that George was taking the franchise.
Yeah, I've got this piece from the AV Club, which I think is from about 7 years ago, But this is some quotes from Kurtz. We had an outline and George changed everything in it, Kurtz said. Instead of bittersweet, he's talking about Return of the Jedi here, because he was involved in a bit of pre-production. Instead of bittersweet and poignant, he wanted a euphoric ending with everybody happy. The original idea that they would recover the kidnapped Han Solo in the early part of the story, and then he would die in the middle part of the film in a raid on an Imperial base. Well, we ended up getting that. George then decided he didn't want any of the principals killed. By that time, there were really big toy sales, and that was a reason. The discussed ending of the film that Kurtz favored presented the rebel forces in tatters, Leia grappling with her new duties as queen, and Luke walking off alone like Clint Eastwood in the spaghetti westerns, as Kurtz put it. Kurtz said the ending would have had a more emotionally nuanced finale to an epic adventure than the forest celebration of the Ewoks that essentially ended the trilogy with a teddy bear luau. As much as I respect the work of Gary Kurtz, come on, buddy. Come on. Teddy bear luau's were my childhood. I'm into it. Blinking or no blinking, you know what I'm saying?
Yep. I think he would have had a vote in favor of the new theme from the special edition over Yub Nub, if I had to guess.
Oh, painful. Hey, let's go to a call. It is 314. Who are you and where are you calling from?
Hey, man. It's Eric Struthers. How's it going?
Eric Struthers. God, Tom, you just went all distorted. You were so excited to hear from Eric Struthers, which is a very Eric Struthers reaction, giving his metal roots. What's going on, buddy?
Well, man, first, just a couple quick things. King Tom, that was me that looked up whether or not the Ewoks blinked and made sounds while doing so while you were on the show, the live call-in show. And I said that maybe there was a forest sound that just happened to occur when the eyes blinked. But it was definitely not the eyes.
Well, I'm still taking vindication for your comment anyway, whether you like it or not.
Fair enough. One of the things, so with Gary Kurtz, I wanted to mention is, and I don't know how I had never heard this story before, but I was looking at the article that Jason wrote on makingstarwars.net about it, and it was about how when Jedi started, Gary Kurtz shows up, and they're like, yeah, you don't work here. And I thought, oh my gosh, that had to be the most awkward situation. How that was able to happen with the logistics of, how Lucasfilm surely ran at the time. And I think it was that George was positive that he had communicated this, that I can't imagine how that must have felt.
It sounds like a classic George Lucas thing to not, he didn't seem that up for confrontation.
It's like the opposite of George Costanza getting fired but going into work the next week anyway. It's, right. Expecting the guy knows he's fired when he's not.
I'd hate to say it, but that does remind me of like our communication style at my office. So I guess I could see it, but I was surprised that I had never heard that before.
Yeah, well, Mark Hamill tweeted, I've lost a lifelong friend. The world has lost a kind, wise, multi-talented artist, filmmaker whose contributions to cinema cannot be overstated. It was an honor to have worked with him, and I know I'm a better man just for having known him. So he's looked upon pretty fondly. So I'm trying to find this where this is mentioned in the Making Star Wars article. I can't see it there, but
hang on. I'll
give us a
riff, improvise, and I'll find it for us.
Okay.
Oh, great! My kids have decided to scream a lot.
That wouldn't surprise me because the corporate structure of Lucasfilm, I think at the time, according to the Rinsler books, was all over the place because they had production at Skywalker Ranch, but then they had another office down in LA where they would do their licensing and other deals. So it would make sense that George didn't know what was going on.
And it's hard to send out a group email when no one's got a computer.
Right.
And is George Lucas one of those people that doesn't have an email? Is that right?
Didn't he? Sometime after Revenge of the Sith came out, I remember him giving an interview and saying something like, "I don't read blogs and I don't have email," but then at the same time, he knew that there were blogs and email attacking him for the political references he made in Revenge of the Sith.
I always like the thought of being so amazingly wealthy and important that someone would just take my emails for me. Do you know what I mean? I'm so important, I don't even have an email address. You can email someone that knows me, one of my people, and they can tell me the important emails. That'd be delightful. Hit us up, Eric.
Okay, so it says that, I guess it was in J.W. Rensler's The Making of Return of the Jedi. There's a moment where Kurtz shows up in England and finds Kazanjian, is that how you pronounce his name, working on Jedi, and Kurtz is shocked to learn he's not making the film and has been replaced. Kazanjian quizzed Lucas about it, who said he did tell Kurtz he was off the film.
I remember reading that now, yeah. George.
Man, that's like one of my marriages, I feel like. Went almost just like that.
Well, look, Mark Hamill did say when he left, it was like a divorce, like two parents breaking up. So he was very sad to see the team fall apart.
I wonder if things would have been different with Jedi if Kurtz were still in charge, knowing how much George took over. If that would have gone any differently, or Ken's, however you say his name, if he did the same exact thing that Kurtz would have done.
Yeah, I definitely think.
I don't know.
I feel like Gary Kurtz was, like put his foot down a lot more than your Rick McCallum or whatever, and that's what ended up leading to disagreed with him once too much. When you're the head of the Stonecutters or a privately owned corporation, you can. Do you know what I mean? It was always like, how much could everyone at Lucasfilm disagree with him when he was making the prequels? Like, how much leeway do you have to say, I don't think so on that one. I don't think you should do that one. Like, if you're in a, if those sort of people are ended up, getting fired or realizing that their job's replaced on the new movie.
Judging by the look, some of them were giving the camera during the beginning documentary. I got a feeling not many people said no to him. But
who is that guy?
Rick McCallum showed it. What's that?
Who is that guy? The one I absolutely
love. Ben Burt?
It's not Ben Burt. It's someone else. And he's sort of balding with glasses, I think. And he's just got this look of absolute terror.
Not Dennis Muren.
No, it's not Dennis Muren. Anyway.
Do you think that, Steele, Rick McCallum showed up to work one day and Kathy Kennedy was in his office?
Oh. Oof. Hopefully not going through the bottom drawer, given who knows what McCallum had down there. Did you see that photo I posted the other day of Rick McCallum and Pablo Hidalgo doing a live chat to promote Revenge of the Sith on this 8-inch thick laptop?
Yes, with the Palm Pilots.
Yes. Oh my God, that computer was thick. It was like 5 iPhones stacked on top of each other thick. Anything? How are you guys going with Solo? You guys got your discs, or did you hold out for the discs? And did you get the disc today?
I did indeed hold out.
I only do
held
digital.
out and come on, King Tom, give me a break, man. No, I was hanging in there, and I was at Target at about 8 a.m. and 5 seconds, and walked in, and thankfully the Target exclusive version this time is the 4K. So it's the first time I won't buy two of the releases. But
is that the one with the little Phil Stozak book?
Yes.
Nice.
Yes. I haven't had a chance to go through it, but I bought it right before I went to a staff meeting, which all I thought about was watching Solo when I got out of there, but I still haven't been able to.
Hey, we should had your job when you got there, mate.
That is true. That is true. When it was kind of embarrassing when I got to Target. There was another guy who I assumed he gets it. We were both coming towards the door in a V formation, meeting there at the exact same time. And I said, "Are you here to pick up Solo?" And he looked at me like I was an idiot. No, and just kept walking. And I thought we were getting ready to have a moment.
I did a ripping one of those out in the desert near Death Valley, and we were going to check out all the Star Wars locations with the droids and stuff. And I saw a guy in the petrol station or the service station, whatever you Americans want to call it. And he had a Star Wars t-shirt on. So I, of course, thought he was there to look at locations as well. And I've scurried over to talk to him, and he just shut me down so hard. I was like a raving man talking about Star Wars coming out of the desert. And he was just like, "I've just got the t-shirt on, dude." And I was like, "But R2-D2 drove just over there in those dunes." So it was very embarrassing. Very embarrassing. What's happening on the Bad Motivators, Eric? What's happening on the new episode? Give us a bit of sizzle before you go.
It drops in just a few short hours. Fantastic stuff, man. Fantastic stuff. We sort of got sidelined by a couple of things and had a pretty lengthy debate on whether or not the ownership of a streaming version of a movie is really ownership. Yeah.
Wow,
Hey, Eric.
That's a heated
yes,
debate as much as euthanasia and right for life and stuff. It's is digital ownership real ownership?
Oh yeah.
They're the moral questions Star Wars fans are presented with in 2018.
Eric, did you talk about Vader at all?
We did, King Tom, and so we played your voicemail this time. Yeah, the new Vader comic run, man. This most recent issue it's a scene, man. It's a scene. And
I've got to catch up with that. I enjoyed the annual by Chuck Wendig. That sort of revitalized me back to those heady days when there was a Mon Cal Sith android on the loose, caped. Very tough, very tough. All right, well, good to hear from you, Struthers. I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, man, and congratulations to you and Jackie. Anytime now.
Yes, any time now. I'm days away from becoming a father, Tom. What should I do?
That's awesome. As soon as you can, watch Star Wars with your child in your arms.
As soon as?
Well, you'll have a night when Jackie needs to sleep and you're up with him and just lay on the couch, hold him, and play Star Wars.
Nice. Listen to that Ewok luau.
Yeah, even the Ewok luau.
Well, it's strange because you've got that, you can watch it. I can put it on all the time in the next, year or so. And he's not going to remember anything. Useless. He's not winning any trivia competitions or anything like that. Nothing. Kind of a waste of time. But at what age do you then have to start holding back and then build up some steam for the initial full proper premiere childhood screening?
I'd say about a year and a half. My sister got my daughter for one Christmas or something that Goodnight Darth Vader book, or Darth Vader and Son. It has a cartoon picture of Darth with holding, little Luke's hand. Mm-hmm. And I saw this and I was like, I cannot let my child see this or everything will be spoiled for them. And so I hid that book away, and they didn't really watch any Star Wars until my daughter was about 4 or 5, because she had asked me if, and she barely knew who these people were, but she asked me if Darth Vader was Luke Skywalker's father. And I said, "Where did you hear that?" And she said, "Sesame Street." So, you know, my wife, she didn't want them watching Star Wars when they were that young, more just because she thought at the time it might be too violent for them. But at that point, I said, "No more Sesame Street, and we're watching Star Wars as soon as we can."
Yeah, that's where all your big Star Wars spoilers are from Big Bird and Jason Ward. It's,
Yes.
do you think on the Sesame Street episode they did that podcast thing where it's like, oh, we're just going to spoil the end of Empire Strikes Back, so just fast forward about 5 minutes?
It probably was Oscar the Grouch, if you ask me. He probably just threw it out there.
We've got a couple of people on hold, but I'm not sure if they want to chime in with a comment or question. Hit +1. No, hit just 1 on your keyboard. Just hit 1 and it lights up a little thing. And I know you want to chat, but if you are not chatted, you're not called in. God, I am double talking today. The number is 646-668-8360. So you're a digital man, Tom. How are you finding those extras? What struck your fancy on Solo?
I've only watched the deleted scenes so far. I haven't had any time for the bonus stuff yet. Just
Tom,
the kids and
Tom,
work. Yes.
Is a deleted scene not an
right?
extra? Is a deleted scene not an extra?
Very true. A deleted scene is an extra. Outside of the deleted scenes, I have not seen much of the extras.
What's your pick of the deleted scenes? What did you find the most enticing?
Han in front of the tribunal. I really liked the dialogue, and it's more of a monologue with, you know, evil looks and the stink eye from the Commodore or whatever he is. But I was really entertained by that. I just thought that the delivery was excellent. It really reminded me of what I could see Harrison Ford doing. And I had read the book, the novel, like a week before. So the novel also has a scene, but it explains that he's talking to the droid when he switches things off. I guess that class of TIE fighter had a droid and life support, which is explained in the novel. But I really liked that deleted scene.
Did it have a droid and life support because it was a training TIE fighter? Or is there another reason?
I think because it was one of those bigger TIE fighters that pursue them during the Kessel Run.
Got you. Are you... For me, with that scene, if you CGI a full TIE fighter mask over Han Solo's head, bang it all back in there. I enjoyed it. I thought it... after seeing it, the film felt weird not having it. Like that immediate jump of like, he actually, because it was like, I never knew whether he was telling the truth, if he got kicked out of flight school, or he just like, it's one of his exaggerations that he never got let in because he had a mind of his own. But he actually did go to flight school and get fired or get demoted for having a mind of his own. He was telling the truth.
If you do that, do you cut out the "we'll have you flying in no time" that the person on Corellia tells him? And do you just have the Commodore say that, or do you keep both?
No, you can't have it both. Or do you think it's the comedy through repetition? Or the Empire ends every sentence with, "we'll have you flying in no time"?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think comedy through repetition.
Okay, awesome. Let's go to 706. Who are you and where are you calling from?
Nick from Georgia.
Nick from Georgia. Have you called in before, Nick?
I have, but this is the only way I can ever get an audience with King Tom, so it just works out.
Well, welcome to the King Tom's court. What would you like to bequeath upon his feet or on his earlobe?
No, just wanted to say that that like the ability to like just sit back on the couch and just enjoy Solo has been wicked awesome. But I really just wanted to just chime right in and ask about Gary Kurtz. Have you ever read the journal of the making of The Empire Strikes Back? It was published as a paperback. It's very hard to find.
I haven't.
one of
I've got a really good book that the screenplay one with all the annotations on it, the annotated screenplays. I've got that one, and lately I've seen a few people tweeting about that book. It's a red cover, yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's an orange. It actually, mine's, maybe it's red when it was first put out, but mine's orange. And when you read it, like basically a publicist followed the production from the very beginning when they went to Norway and through the end. But wow, Gary Kurtz, that was Irvin Kershner's film, but Gary Kurtz was instrumental in helping make that film what it was. So hate to see a guy like that pass away, but wow, what an incredible job he did.
Nick, what story from the book stands out that makes you so revering of Gary Kurtz?
It strikes in a couple of places, especially when it came down to they were moving from one studio to the other. There were delays. I can't remember if it was due to a fire or what.
The Shining.
That's
the
right.
Shining.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, yeah. King Tom's right. There was a fire, and The Shining had to take up studio space. Kurtz would not cut any corners. He made sure that the stages were built, they were the right size, and that they were what they had planned to do. And yes, it did constitute overruns and Lucas having to go get more money, but in the end, he had Kershner's back. And have you ever heard the phrase that somebody can be honest or right to a fault? That's what it struck me as. Kurtz was just so dedicated and so to the cause that he wasn't going to cut any corners, and it probably was to his detriment later on.
Excellent call, Nick. I appreciate this. What's on the Solo home video? What sort of bonus or extra deleted scene is pricked your fancy?
You know what? I have only gotten to watch the film once since it was released digitally. I've been with work and a couple of other things. I've been very, very busy and away. So I was actually at Disney last week, week before last, and was enjoying the Solo props that they've got on display there in the launch bay. But I haven't seen the deleted scenes, but just the fun that I had in the theater with that film through repeated viewings, it keeps getting better. I'm finding that I get a deeper appreciation of the work, and it's just a great time to be a Star Wars fan. I mean, honestly.
Nice, Nick. I find that period of, the film comes out, you see it at the cinema a bunch of times, and you talk about it, incessantly. You listen to podcasts about it incessantly, dissecting it and stuff. And then you get a few months out, and then you just get to watch it again. And I don't know, for me, it just reminds me of the fun of just watching it. Because you've complained about, this little line and that and this and that. And then you sit down and go, at the end of the day, very fun to watch, which is, really sweet.
So Solo's a great film for me because it's the first film that I've taken my father to see. And he took me to see Jedi. That was my first Star Wars film in the theater that I remember. I was a very, very small 2-year-old and sleeping through Empire. And my dad took me to see Return of the Jedi. Well, for Solo, I got to take my dad and my half brother, who's quite considerably younger than me, to the theater to go see it. And I actually drove 70 miles out of the way this summer to take my boys to see it with me when they were visiting for the summer. So, for me, I get to remind myself of, those experiences with people that I love. And Star Wars, we all know that there's a lot of people who like to go on a negative run, but for me, it's about the positives. I don't really nitpick the movies. I mean, there's things that I go, I wish you hadn't done that. But in the end, it's all about the experiences and who you share it with and how it makes you feel. And Star Wars makes me feel pretty legit, pretty good. So I'm not going to complain too much.
Nick, I am a fan. Thanks so much for calling in, and don't be a stranger, buddy.
Cool, man. King Tom, always the best.
Thanks, Nick. Wings up.
No worries. Thanks, Steele.
Cheers, mate. I always think about this, Tom. Just it's how angry people are about not liking a film, like sort of angry at the like not just disappointed in the film, but like angry, like I want revenge against this person, which is it's such a strange phenomenon, and also just like it seems like a lot of people I don't know if they'll ever be able to, like, no matter what happens in the future films or whatever, if they'll ever be able to forgive Star Wars for how worked up they got over it. Like, how do you come back? Like, I feel like you've had that, like, Kramer, like, break up with the girlfriend where it's like, you disgust me, you know, how can I even look at you? And then, like, how do you come back from that and enjoy the films after you've been so angry about them?
Star Wars means a lot to a lot of us. And I think it's, like you're saying, it's interesting because some people, it means so much to them that for whatever reason, if it doesn't check off every box or hit every note in their headcanon, they will see it as a personal betrayal. They will not be able to believe that this thing that meant so much to them let them down. And like you're saying, and they will go on that Kramer rant where they will call it every dirty name in the book. They'll attack other fans. They'll attack creators. And I'm not saying everyone who doesn't like something in Star Wars feels this way, but some people, you're absolutely right. I don't know why they do or how that happens. And it like, how can something mean so much to something, but how can you love it so much, but not love it enough to let it be something different? And that's just a disconnect to me that it's a little bit bizarre. And if someone doesn't like something in Star Wars, if they don't derive the same joy that I do, because I'm very positive about Star Wars, I feel bad for them, not in a pity way, but I feel bad that it missed the mark for them. But I don't feel that way. But if you think about that one episode of Seinfeld with Kramer, by the end, wasn't he begging the girl to take him back?
Yeah. And then...
So...
But then it's like, you've got that thing of like, and then everyone badmouths your ex-girlfriend with you, and then you're back with them, and so it's really awkward. And so
right.
I sort of try to think of like how people that are this worked up about it, like what their end game is. And I don't know, it just seems like the only thing is them and their friends given creative control over Star Wars. That seems like the only, like, we're happy now. Because they're not wiping away like any film ever. Like, you just... That's crazy talk. Hey, if you guys on hold want to chat, just hit +1 on your keypad. Otherwise, we'll probably round it up pretty soon. If you want to support the podcast, you can join the Steele Wars Patreon Content Club, which I am desperately trying to look for my little logo here to put up on the screen, and I have found it, Tom. It's very exciting. It's a Photoshop of me as Han Solo. But from just 23 cents a week, which is $1 a month, you can support the show on Patreon, and you get all the YouTube stuff as audio exclusively on the Patreon feed as well. So if you don't have time to sit down and watch us chat, you can just listen to it in your car, which I appreciate because I'm more of a hearer than a viewer for most of my Star Wars stuff. Although sometimes I go a little bit of both, depending on the mood I'm in and at the time of day. Tom, What podcast will you be calling into soon?
I'll probably be leaving a voicemail for Blue Harvest, maybe the Sith List, and of course, I recently got my Star Wars Year by Year book, so I can follow along with the excellent Star Wars Year by Year that you and Hawes have been producing.
Nice. I was hoping you'd check that out. We're doing that in video and in audio. We're about to record episode 2 this week, King Tom.
Oh, okay.
But
I have a bit of a contentious question in mind with something that I believe would be brought up in the next sec. Now, are people allowed to ask questions about things you're doing that episode, or would you rather they ask questions like an episode after the fact?
Oh, I don't know, man. I don't know about this Back to the Future podcast interaction that you're doing here. Well, give us the gist of your question, Marty McFly.
I've been reading something that says that, all the ties that they say George Lucas have with Joseph Campbell, that maybe he didn't really read The Hero with a Thousand Faces until after he wrote A New Hope.
I thought that was the case.
Mm-hmm. That it's all a PR thing, that they kind of met after, and both sides found it advantageous to say George was using Hero with a Thousand Faces in making Star Wars, when that might not be the case. So I have to go back and find where I read that. And I wanted to ask you guys what you thought about that, because flipping through the book, it's definitely in there.
Interesting. We've got one more call. We'll take that and we'll finish up. It's 570. Who are you and where are you calling from?
Hey, my name is Mitch, and I live in Palm Beach, Florida.
Hey, Mitch, what's going on, man?
Hey, Steele, I started listening to your show back in November, prior to the release of The Last Jedi. I wanted all the content I could get, and I started listening to a broadcast. And your show is definitely one of the shows I like the most.
Thanks, man.
So,
how did you find the podcast? I'm fascinated.
I believe I went to iTunes and they had them listed, and yours had like 4.5 stars, and had you with a green lightsaber. So obviously I listened.
Really? I've changed it from the green lightsaber. I've got to switch it back now. All right. Now this is great research. Yeah. Thank you, Mitch.
Sure, no problem. So on your Twitter last week, I saw you retweeted a interview that you did at Celebration Orlando 2017 with Ryan.
Yes.
Yeah, and it was a really good interview, and you asked a lot of questions. I think fans at the time, wanted to ask someone who was writing Star Wars. Like, we were picking up where JJ left off after The Force Awakens, and we're seeing Luke Skywalker for the first time in 40 years. And it's such a big moment. And, you're there asking these really interesting questions. And I thought you really hit the nail on the head. Like, okay, you're going to hand the lightsaber to Rey. I could see the excitement in your face. And then you were like, oh, Luke Skywalker is going to be a hero. And training will be involved. All of these things that, you see online, all these people are upset about, were the questions that you were asking. And it was just kind of eerie to go back and watch that 8 months or so before the movie came out. And then knowing what we have now and the state of the franchise and how so many people are, up in arms about the decisions that were made and where do we go from here in episode 9. And that interview really put things into perspective of the state of the fan base. And
yeah, there's an interesting. So I posted. I was sort of putting together this clip of all these different clips for something, and so I was sort of going through a bunch of old stuff, and I watched that interview they did with Ryan just after the Last Jedi trailer had come out, and I do mention igniting the green, and someone freezed it on that. The look Ryan gives me of just like, oh, there's a slight a reaction.
You could. I actually did look at his facial expression when you said that, and it was like, oh my god.
Oh my God! I just had a
It
look
was
on the screen, and the sun is coming right through the back window. It's like Raiders of the Lost Ark in that tomb where the sun comes through at the right time to highlight. It's like the sun is coming through LA to highlight content in. This is crazy. If people are watching, I even know how to block it out, but there is a. It's like this place is enchanted. Oh, and it's just gone, and it just moved. Wait, if I move my head a certain way, this is not good audio. But yeah, it was. Yeah, the things I bring up to him are a lot of the things that people didn't take well, either happening or how they happened. So it's.
Yeah, I agree.
It's
Hey, there were questions that I feel like a lot of fans were wondering at the time.
Yeah, well, that's what I was sort of trying to do because it was for morning TV as well. So I sort of wanted to pose some of the bigger questions, and obviously there was a lot of pressure, understated now,
Sure.
for how Luke Skywalker was going to be handled and how that sort of, a lot of people reacted to that in a very negative way. What do you guys think with Luke Skywalker, right? Is it that he's sort of like a lot of people's avatar in Star Wars? Like they came up sort of, like me, it was sort of like he was my guy. He was, my character in Star Wars. And then they show him older and he's not perfect and he's made mistakes and he has regret. And do people sort of, does that reflect on them? Does that make them think about their lives or something like that?
I think so. I think that's a large part of it. And maybe some people wanted him to be all the Force unleashed, pulling down Star Destroyers from the sky and toppling AT-ATs with the snap of his fingers. But I think some people feel a betrayal.
I think that's one extreme to the other. I think that would have been a complete opposite spectrum of what we got. Somewhere in the middle would have been okay.
The one person that I've talked with in offline who did not like The Last Jedi said that he felt betrayed that Luke was shown as this washed up disappointment who was often hiding. And it wasn't so much that that's what he wanted from Luke. I think that's what some people wanted to see in the movie, but he felt more like that Luke should have been something more, shouldn't have been a hermit. And I think there's an identification that some people had with the character that they see it as a betrayal.
Sure. And, just an example, the James Bond franchise recently came out, and you have, I believe it was Skyfall, and you have James Bond in the first 20 minutes of the film as a washed up MI6 agent who really is struggling, to be what he once was. But not that I'm saying Skyfall is a tremendous movie or anything like that, or comparing to Star Wars, but he's able to bounce back throughout the film and get to that point, 30% of the way through to where, James Bond, the one that we know and love. And I think a lot of people, fans of the Harry Potter franchise, Lord of the Rings, could see an older wizard-like character be a leader, like Gandalf or Dumbledore. And, comparing those two great characters to an older veteran Luke Skywalker, they really aren't very similar. So I think it is possible for an older man who's made mistakes, that's had faults, who isn't perfect, to kind of like redeem himself and, lead the younger generation. One of your questions, I believe, was what kind of, is he going to train Rey, and how is that relationship going to work? And, a lot of people are, upset about what took place on Arc 2.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of them, I think, either ignore or it doesn't connect with them the fact that at the end he did come back around and he had that moment, and it's just something that they were so disappointed by how he was presented early in the movie that what he does at the end of the movie doesn't resonate with them.
Well, Star Wars fans kind of want a lightsaber battle, and I feel like they were like, oh man, like couldn't fight Kylo, he just disappeared, and then he's gone. He's not even Episode 9. I mean, as a Force Ghost, obviously he'll be back. And I listen, I'm a Star Wars fan. Go to Disney, pass holder. Love the movies. Still, obviously listen to the shows, and I'm up for healthy discussions, with fans from all sides. I think it's important. But yeah, it's just frustrating to look at Star Wars Instagram comments anytime they post something, or Twitter, and you just see hate and just disgust, thousands of comments. Like it's like, is this ever going to end? And it's tough because Solo just came out on DVD, and it should be a time for us to celebrate. I do think Solo was well received. I know it didn't do well at the box office, but I feel like a lot of fans were pleased that went out to see it, were pleased with the movie, despite its production issues.
Yeah, and it is like, act like you deserve to like it. Like,
yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's that's the thing about, like, when are you ever gonna be able to forgive Star Wars? Like and
I think people will.
Should Star Wars forgive you?
Because you have people that went to go see Infinity War, and most of those people are Star Wars fans. You know what I mean? They're the fans of the Marvel Universe, and they love Star Wars. I rarely meet someone who's like, oh, I like one and not the other. They're usually the same people.
I guess I'm talking about, the people that are like, not that are just like, yeah, Solo, but the aggressive types. Like,
yeah, of course,
the ones who's
you said it on your show.
They're going to make less money.
Passionate.
They're gonna like make less money if they post videos liking stuff. So when are you ever gonna like anything?
Yep. Cool.
Hey,
I think you make a lot of good points.
Cheers, Mitch, and right back at you. And please don't be a stranger, and keep calling in, man. Good call.
Oh yeah. Enjoy your evening, guys.
Cheers.
Thanks, you too.
Alrighty, Tom. That brings us to about the end of today's Hypernews. We'll be back Friday at the same time, 5 Pacific, 8 Eastern, 10 a.m. Saturday morning in Australia on the East Coast. So a good time for Australians that want to call in that are normally at work. And it's going to be a great time. Tom, what about your Twitter and all that good stuff? It's listed on the screen, but for those listening.
Tom Chansky, Chansky. It's all one word, no underscores or anything else funky in there. And that's probably where you can get most of my oddball and hopefully occasionally entertaining thoughts.
Very, very nice. How come you haven't changed your Twitter to King Tom? Come on.
I like being constant.
Get on brand. Nice.
I've thought about it.
All righty. Well, I predict by next Friday there's going to be some sizzling Star Wars news, because there's just, when things dull down a little bit, it always bounces back with a sting. And so join us on Friday afternoon. We'll have Lacey from StarWarsNews.net is Resistance Radio. She'll be co-hosting with me, my buddy from San Diego Comic Con. So that'll be good fun. Tom, thank you so much for joining us. Thanks to everyone in the chat room. Thank you to the patrons that are supporting the show. I really appreciate it. And we've got a ton of bonus content. We're recording another Making Steele Wars tomorrow. Did one last week as well. And I'm recording a bunch of interviews this week as well to bank over the bliss of the young boy that's about to move in with us. Apparently, that's the rumor I'm hearing. But thanks so much, Tom.
Thanks for having me, Steele.
And may that force be with you.